Hey viewers, I am DS, your psychologist, and welcome to another episode on Channel NITT. In 3 of our previous episodes, we have already discussed 3 MBTI types when they are in a unhealthy MBTI loop. We have already discussed the ENTJ, INTJ, and the INFJ. Incidentally, they are all J types, and as I have mentioned in one of my videos, the J types use superego functions as their first or second function. Given that when we are in a loop, we only use the first and third function, this means that for the J type, they will always get to use an IT function as their new co-pilot. So when an extroverted MBTI type goes in the loop, they become more extroverted. When an introverted MBTI type goes in the loop, they become more introverted. Since the P-type individuals use superego functions as their third and fourth function, does it mean that if they bypass their second function and use the third function, they will be better? So what I mean is, if the second function is being bypassed, now they're going to use an IT function with a superego function. Is this going to be better for them? The answer is no! A loop is a loop, and a loop just makes any individual in a loop unhealthy. So in this episode, we are now going to look at how a P-type individual may appear as if they are in a loop. And the MBTI type that we are featuring today will be the INFP. INFPs by nature are usually sentimental, idealistic, and compassionate. INFPs usually do not plan ahead, and they do not like to follow any structure. INFPs rely very heavily on internal feeling. They make decisions based on the personal set of values. So this can be a religion, this can be values of their parents, and this can be a philosophy that they may not even be aware of. And it helps the INFP to gather information so that the INFP can form patterns.
Pattern more than badminton.
The third and fourth function, SI and TE respectively, have less influence on the INFP, but they do help the INFP to get more grounded in reality. So what happens when an INFP goes on a loop? When an INFP goes on a loop, they set their co-pilot NE, and they go on a FiSi loop. So the INFP in a FiSi loop will use exclusively Fi and Si to process information. So how does Si manifest itself in an INFP in a FiSi loop? So Si in this case will act in very curious ways. They make the INFP go on a loop of self-evaluation, because in this case, Si is internally looking for self-evidence, looking for self-reflection. An INFP in a FiSi loop may go on a very harsh journey of self-evaluation. So presume an INFP in a FiSi loop has failed an examination. This INFP is very likely to be very critical of himself or herself. They will only look for reasons internally why they did not do well for the examination. So they may think of reasons like, I did not do well because I did not study hard enough. I was really careless. I played too much. Usually, a healthy INFP may also engage in NE to collect information to help in this evaluation. So for example, NE might supply the INFP with information such as, hey, the exam is really difficult. Even your classmates are not doing well. But given that the INFP has set NE for some reason or another, they only find the reasons by attributing to themselves. So an INFP in a FiSi loop is always evaluating themselves. They will ask themselves why they are doing certain things. So if an INFP in a FiSi loop realizes that he or she has been very mean to their friends, even to the point that they are internally cursing them or wishing that they will have bad luck, this INFP is going to be very critical over this issue. Especially when the INFP realizes that he or she is acting against their initial values, they might become even more critical of themselves. As a result of this, they can become so engrossed in evaluating themselves that they lose touch of reality. Why? This is because the INFP in a FiSi loop will become blind to what actually the reasons might have been. So if an INFP driver had caused an accident, the INFP would put all the blame to themselves. They will say that, oh, I'm being such a careless driver. Why must I come out at this time? Why must I drive the car today? I could have taken a bus. So they come up with all sorts of excuses to blame themselves. They will not be able to see that the other driver has also a part to play in this accident. So I have given a few examples of the INFP in a FiSi loop. So it is actually quite easy to identify an INFP in a FiSi loop. The INFP in a FiSi loop seems to be very obsessed with their own flaws. So the INFP in a FiSi loop can be very obsessed over their own perceived flaws. They can also be overwhelmed with guilt. Sometimes this obsession can come in the form of intrusive memories. Although it is normal for many individuals to focus on room for improvement rather than focus on their achievement, this is really very apparent in an INFP when they are in a FiSi loop. So when an INFP is in a FiSi loop, they keep going on this loop whereby they are evaluating why something has happened. Like, why did we break up? What have I done wrong? So they will ruminate over certain events, and it is very hard for them to actually get out of this. This is also why an INFP in a FiSi loop may have a very tough time getting through events such as breakups or grief. And what this means is that their mental health is going to be really affected. And that can be very serious for an INFP. They may start to develop self-perceptions such as, I'm really useless, I'm not capable at all, I'm no good, I am so stupid. And the worst thing is, they will find evidence to reinforce this type of thinking. And eventually, this may lead to learned helplessness or even depression. So as you can see, an INFP in a FiSi loop is always trying to look at their own mistakes. This is not going to be very healthy. So an INFP in a FiSi loop must get out of this. How can an INFP in a FiSi loop get out of this loop? They must get their co-pilot back on track again. And the co-pilot is NE. So the first thing that the INFP can do to get NE back is to expose themselves to new experiences. So as you expose yourself to new experiences, identify the patterns and draw a parallel to your own situation.
Determine your distance from the curb when you back up.
Just to give you an illustration, presume the INFP in a FiSi loop thinks that they are not being a good friend. They should all the more make new friends and realize that friendship is a two-way street. They are not to blame because the other friend is not reciprocating. The second thing the INFP in a FiSi loop can do is to expose themselves to the past. Not in the form of confrontation, but more in the form of acceptance. So accept that the past has already happened. Then move on. So the INFP needs to realize that it is pointless to ruminate over spilled milk. So every MBTI type definitely has the potential of getting into an unhealthy loop. And when you go onto a loop, it's definitely unhealthy. In order for you to get out of the loop, you first have to realize that you are in the loop. So INFPs, if you realize that you are in a FiSi loop, then it is time to really get out of it. Well, I hope that you have found this episode useful as well. If you have not subscribed, do consider subscribing so that we can bring you more MBTI. Okay, I'm going to sign off now and I'll see you in my next episode. Goodbye!